Following the end of The Peripheral, I cast about looking for something to watch and possibly review. That casting took longer than I wanted because I wound up not feeling great for almost a week. Now, I heard a while back that Tim Burton was doing a remake of The Addams Family with a focus on Wednesday. At first I thought it might be interesting. After all, it is Tim Burton. I don't think the man knows how to do anything that isn't at least interesting. It might wind up being complete crap, but it will be interesting crap. Then the casting came out. I have to say, I was not overly impressed. I don't come at this from any kind of Addams Family nerd perspective or anything. I watched the old 1960s show a few times as reruns as a kid, and I loved the 90s films, mainly because Raul Julia was awesome, and Christina Ricci killed it as Wednesday. I did not think anyone could do quite as good a job as Ricci, and the first few pictures I saw of the actress Burton cast did not inspire confidence in me. The actual actress that was chosen to play the titular role was not my chief concern, however. I thought Catherine Zeta-Jones might be a good choice for Morticia, if the part was written properly. And the actor I saw on the promotionals for Uncle Fester, he looked alright as well. No, what concerned me were the actors chosen for Pugsley and Gomez Addams. Isaac Ordonez is bad enough. He could be a perfectly fine actor. I don't know, as I've never seen him on anything prior to this show, but he does not have the right look for Pugsley. Even in the original comic strips that are the source material for the franchise, Pugsley has short, cropped hair. But in Wednesday, he has this preppy boy band thing going on. His character, as I will get into later on, is also wrong. Both in the 1960s series and the 1990s films, Pugsley was no pushover, as we will see he is in this show. He is Wednesday's cohort in crime, and guinea pig for experiments, certainly, but not someone other people were able to push around. If Pugsley is bad, Gomez is even worse in terms of casting and characterization. Luis Gomez would not have made my top 5 billion list of people to cast as Gomez. Yes, I know there are only about 3.75 billion men on the planet. That should give you an idea how bad I thought this casting was. And it turned out I was right. And the chemistry between him and Catherine Zeta-Jones did not help. Or rather, the lack of chemistry. There are scenes in this first episode that were genuinely hard to watch. They were so bad. While he is closer to Gomez from the comic strip physically, he is outclassed as Gomez by both John Astin from the 60s series and definitely by Raul Julia from the 90s films. But all of that I will expound upon following the spoiler review of Episode 1 of Wednesday from Netflix. The show opens well enough with Jenna Ortega's Wednesday walking into her school and giving a very Wednesday-ish narration of her thoughts on having to be there. She heads straight for a locker in which she finds Pugsley, bound and gagged. He is a complete wimp and refuses to even tell Wednesday who did it. She learns anyway when she touches him to untie him, having a vision of the bully jocks who tied him up, laughing while they did it. He tells him that the only one allowed to torture him is her, and tells him she is going to do what she does best. We cut to the school pool where Wednesday appears with 2 bags of piranhas and confronts the water polo team at practice, 5 of whom were the bullies who bound her brother. After telling them that the only person who gets to torture her brother is her, she drops the piranhas into the pool. The boys swim hurriedly for the edges of the pool, but one of the boys doesn't quite make it before the piranhas get a bit of him first. Following the opening credits, we get the single most cringe scene in the entire episode. Wednesday is in the back of the family car with Mom and Dad, while Pugsy rides up front with Lurch, who is driving. The radio is on, and we get what amounts to the single grossest makeout scene I have seen in a long time between Luis Guzman as Gomez and Catherine Zeta-Jones as Morticia. The fact that Luis Guzman is uglier than the hindquarters of a baboon is bad enough, but they have made him look even worse with makeup and hair. And then there is the acting and lack of chemistry I mentioned earlier. The two of them sing while gazing into each other's eyes, and there was nothing between them, despite what they were trying to sell. Following the face-sucking, Morticia asks Wednesday how long she will be giving them the cold shoulder, and Wednesday asks Lurch to remind her parents she is not speaking to them. Apparently, as a result of the piranha incident, Wednesday is being sent to Nevermore Academy. It is a private school for supernatural outcasts, and her transfer there had to be done to avoid the boy who lost a testicle to the piranhas filing an attempted murder charge. Her parents tried to convince her that she will like Nevermore, and maybe even make some friends. Wednesday, however, begs to differ, objecting to being sent to what she sees as a juvenile detention center because she is determined not to follow in her parents' footsteps. Both parents went to Nevermore as children and have fond memories of the school. As the car passes the sign to Nevermore, we see a car going in the opposite direction turn off and stop by the sign, letting a hitchhiker out. The driver asks if he is sure he wants to get off there, and he tells her he is. He walks into the woods a ways before stopping and consulting a map, during which he is mauled by some unseen creature. At the school, we meet the principal, who also happens to be Morticia's former roommate at Nevermore. She arranges for Wednesday to get her mother's old dorm room and tells her that she will be driven into town twice a week for her court-mandated therapy sessions with a shrink with whom the school has a relationship. She is shown to her dorm room, a room decorated with vivid colors, as is her new roommate, Enid. Enid proceeds to try to sell Nevermore to Wednesday, but Wednesday cuts her off, telling Enid that she will not be there long as she will be escaping shortly. Enid then shows her around the school and exposition dumps the school cliques and a few bits of gossip, making sure to tell Wednesday that she writes the school gossip blog. When she goes to say goodbye to her family, Mom warns her not to try to escape, that she has warned all of the family to alert her should Wednesday show up on their doorsteps. She shoots back that her mother underestimates her and that she will escape the education penitentiary she has been exiled to. Her mother then tells her that she is sure Nevermore will be life-changing for her. As they drive away, Gomez assures Morticia that Wednesday will not be alone, and flips a switch on his armrest. On the underside of the car, Thing drops out of the bottom and heads for the school to keep an eye on Wednesday. In the woods, the police find the hitchhiker's dismembered body. The sheriff tells the deputy to tell the press it was a bear and to issue a warning for all hikers to stay out of the woods. He tells her he knows it wasn't a human who did it, and he is sure it's connected to Nevermore. Enid later walks in on Wednesday decoloring her half of the dorm room, going ballistic. After exchanging a few barbs, Enid puts on some pop music as Wednesday tries to go back to writing, dancing joyfully as she knows it will irritate Wednesday. The two are about to come to blows, Enid unsheathing her rainbow-colored claws, when Marilyn Thornhill enters. Played by Christina Ricci, Miss Thornhill is the botany teacher and dorm mom to Enid and Wednesday. She brings Wednesday a black dahlia from her greenhouse as a welcome gift, and Wednesday thanks her before taking the opportunity to ask about Jericho, the local town. Going into town is a privilege that has to be earned, she tells her, before leaving the two girls. The next day, Wednesday goes into the fencing room in time to see the queen bee of Nevermore beat and then humiliate an asthmatic boy who claims her last win was a foul. Wednesday accepts the girl's call for a challenger, and after the two trade wins, Wednesday challenges the girl to a duel to first blood, when she promptly loses. Asthma Boy apologizes to her when the two meet in the infirmary later, so Wednesday can have the small cut to her forehead bandaged. As Wednesday walks out into the rain later, she opens her umbrella and crosses a passage to another building. She hears stones scraping and looks up just in time to see a gargoyle heading right for her head. A boy tackles her, saving her life. When she wakes up in the infirmary, he is by her bedside. He informs her that they knew each other when they were much younger, that she saved his life, so he figures this makes them even. They were playing hide-and-seek at his grandmother's funeral, and he hid in the casket. She heard him and got him out before they cremated him, pushing the emergency button and stopping the oven. Later, Wednesday has the room to herself and she is typing when she senses something. She winds up trapping Thing and gives him two choices. She locks him in the desk drawer for the rest of the semester, or he pledges his loyalty to her. He picks her. She then tells him that the first order of business for them is escaping teenage purgatory. Shortly thereafter, she is driven into town for her appointment with the shrink. The principal drives her, telling her that she intends to make sure Wednesday does not bolt. The therapist tries to get Wednesday to talk about her feelings and family, trying to use Wednesday's writing as a way to get in. Wednesday asks to use the powder room and promptly decamps out the window. Across the street, she bumps into a guy that gives her a vision of his death by a car accident. When he yells at her for spilling his fruit, she continues her getaway. She goes into the cafe and helps the barista when he tells her that he can't give her what she wants because the machine is broken, and he can't fix it since the manual is in Italian. She offers to fix it if he will help her get out of town. He offers to drive her to the nearest town that has a train station when she quickly fixes the espresso machine, but she will have to wait an hour for him to get off work. This is about the time that the shrink comes out of her office to look around the street. The principal notices her and asks what happened. While Wednesday is sitting in a booth, waiting, three large boys dressed as pilgrims come in and start to hassle her. When the barista tries to intervene on her behalf with the bullies, she stops him and faces off with the townies. She quickly kicks their asses, and it is about then that the barista's dad, the sheriff, and the principal and shrink show up. The sheriff is not happy someone from Nevermore is beating up townies, but with his son vouching for Wednesday, he has to let her be taken back to Nevermore. As they leave the cafe, the sheriff hears her name and says her father should be in jail for murder, and he'll be keeping an eye on her. On their way back to the school, the principal drives past an accident scene and says she hopes everyone is all right. Wednesday tells her that the driver broke his neck and is dead. That night, while Wednesday plays a truly awesome rendition of Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones with her cello out on the balcony outside her room, we see Asthma Boy use telekinesis to pull a book off the shelf. Inside is a drawing of what looks like a courtyard at Nevermore, with the building on fire, a girl who looks a bit like Wednesday, and a man wearing a cloak and hat pointing a staff. The boy tears half the picture out of the book and leaves. We also see the barista going through boxes of files, eventually finding Gomez Addams' file and pulling it out. His dad is drinking beer in his office while looking at a murder board with 3 victims and a map of Jericho County pinned up. And the guy who saved her from the gargoyle is painting what looks like a raven on the main quad's wall before looking up where Wednesday is playing. When she ends the piece, Enid comes out and gets introduced to Thing. They hear the other werewolves howling in the distance, and Wednesday asks why she isn't out with them. Enid informs her that extending her claws is all she can do. She can't fully transform. Her mother says she's just a late bloomer, but Enid is worried she might never be able to. Wednesday sees that she is crying, and Enid lashes out, wondering if Wednesday has ever felt emotion. Wednesday gets quiet. She doesn't understand, but she tells her of the story about the last time she cried. She was 6 and some bullies cornered her while she was out walking her pet scorpion, Nero. 2 of them held her as 2 others ran over her scorpion while they made her watch. She then asks Enid to show her how to use the computer. Later that night, Thing is sent to the barista's house to get him to call her on the computer. She asks if he is still willing to help her escape, and he agrees, wishing he was going too. Wednesday plans to use the Harvest Festival as a distraction, which all at Nevermore are required to attend. At the Harvest Festival, the principal makes sure to stay where she can see Wednesday. Wednesday decides she needs a distraction and starts throwing darts, popping 1 each. When she wins a big panda, she asks the vendor to give it to the principal. The principal looks away at the panda for just a second, and Wednesday is gone. She had arranged to meet the barista in the parking lot when the fireworks started. When they get there, he is trying to show her Gomez's file when the 3 bullies from the day before show up with bats, forcing them to run back into the fair. They wind up splitting up when she runs into Asthma Boy and sees him dying in a vision. She gives chase to warn him, but he turns on her when they get into the woods, using his telekinesis to throw her into a tree and hold her against the trunk. He tells her that he needs to save everyone at Nevermore from her, that his mother, a great seer, drew a picture of her destroying Nevermore and warned him what he needed to do if she ever showed up there. He reveals it was him that dropped the gargoyle on her. Just as he's about to kill her, the monster who killed the hitchhiker kills him and then runs off. She takes the picture he showed her to justify her death as she makes sure he is dead. Later, she gets a call on her crystal ball that her parents gave her before they left her at Nevermore. When they ask her how her first week went, she pauses while mentally narrating all that happened to her before telling them that she might actually love it there after all. As noted at the beginning, this show is not without problems. I never thought Catherine Zeta-Jones would be one of them, but her acting in this episode was beneath her. She is and has always been a very good actress. That she put on this performance makes me think it has to be the writing or the direction. Luis Guzman, on the other hand, is usually just an okay character actor, but he has had some bad roles, and this is one for which he should never have been cast. He makes a terrible Gomez. No matter if you are trying to go for authenticity with the original comic strip, or if you are putting him more fairly up against his predecessors from the 60s or the 90s. Pugsley is also a problem. He doesn't look or act like Pugsley should, and the reason for that could be any number of things. To tell you the truth, about the only other thing that doesn't work besides those 3 admittedly minor characters in this episode was the shrink. She was too perky and too annoying and too seemingly hiding something. I'm not sure what it was with her. Just about every other thing in this episode worked for me, starting with Jenna Ortega's Wednesday and going all the way through the characters we are introduced to. From her too perky roommate to the weird asthma boy to the watchful principal to the sheriff and his son. I liked just about all of it. It's an intriguing world that has a lot of potential, and I can see why Netflix and the critics have been pimping this one so hard in a time when Netflix could really use a genuine hit. After all, it's not every day that you launch a new big-budget project with hopes of a new franchise at the same time the man you are trying to build that franchise on tells you to kiss his ass. He's going back to play Superman since you idiots can't do The Witcher properly. But that's a different story. I think Wednesday has a lot of potential. With a number of anchors they probably can't really do anything about, other than tighten up the writing to compensate. Jenna Ortega looks like she will be more than capable of carrying this show, and it will be interesting to see where they go with this season. That is all for now. If you like what I do here, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure the bell icon is clicked on so you are notified when new videos are uploaded, share the video, and leave a comment or constructive criticism below. All of that really does help with Mama Susan's monstrosity. I will see you in the next video. Tschüss.